Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be filled with sorrow and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is filled with sorrow, even to death. Remain here and watch with me." And going a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So you could not watch with me even 1 hour? Watch and pray, so that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak."
And so it begins. Tonight. I know what's coming. No place to rest my head, but I just want to sleep. Why didn't they get it? I thought it was so simple to understand. Love God, love your neighbor. I must have said it 1,000 times. In one ear and out the other. So now I am here in this garden, alone. I know what's coming. You can't anger those in power and threaten to overthrow their reign, especially if their authority is not love, but control.
Was the wind and dark was the sky when our Lord came to die. Known on the cross for our sins he did hang, and no bird sang. And men with anguish and fear then to the cross drew near, hushed then to feel the bitter pang, and no bird sang. God's mercy will be done. Eleison. No bird sang in the sky. No bird sang in the sky when Christ did come to.
Now the festival of unleavened bread, called Passover, was approaching, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for some way to get rid of Jesus, for they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12. And Judas went to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus. They were delighted and agreed to give him money. He consented and watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over to them when no crowd was present. While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' followers saw that what was going to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with our swords?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. When Judas saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself.
It made sense to me at the time. I needed the money. It was that simple. I had bills to pay. And I knew that he had angered other people, and the leaders of the temple, they were not going to continue with this. So I thought at first, well, why not? Why not me get something out of this? Why don't I get ahead? But I didn't. I didn't come out ahead. The pain set in my stomach. It grew like a tree. I tried to fake it. I'd smile outwardly. And when I finally had a change of heart, it was too late. I saw I had only one choice.
He then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at the disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns." "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail, and when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." But Peter replied, "Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death." Jesus answered, "I tell you, Peter, before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times.
Get behind me, Satan. What was that? I just thought it was crazy talk that he'd have to die. I believe he was the way and the truth. I dropped everything. And when I told him so, he called me Satan. I'm not Satan. And then, right when he needed me most, I lied to save my own neck. I don't know who he is. Like heck I didn't. I say one thing to him and another to the crowd. I'll go wherever you go. And the first time I really must go to bat for him, I'm a liar. Face it, not really much of a rock am I. I don't think I'm Satan, but I'm no rock of faith either.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. and they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get.
We just happened to be standing there, my dad, my brother, and me. There was a long line following like a parade, and Jesus could barely stand up. Then somebody made my dad help him carry the cross. Blood everywhere. People shouting. I was afraid for my dad. What if he couldn't carry the cross, if it was too heavy? What if the mass hysteria grew and my dad got caught up in it? My brother and I followed along until we stopped, to the place 2 other men were hanging. They nailed him to a cross, hung him up high, and we stood there watching in the shadow of the cross.
Oh, to see the dawn of the darkest day, Christ on the road to Calvary, tried by sinful men, torn and beaten, then nailed to a cross of wood. This the power of the cross. Christ became sin for us, took the blame, bore the wrath. We stand forgiven at the cross. Oh, to see the pain written on your face, bearing the awesome weight of sin. Every bitter thought, every evil deed, crowning your blood-stained brow. This the power of the cross. Christ became sin for us, took the blame, he bore the wrath. We stand forgiven at the cross. Oh, to see my name written in the wounds, for through your suffering I am free. Death is crushed to death, life is mine to live, won through your selfless love. This the power of the cross, Son of God, slain for us. What a love, what a cost. We stand forgiven at the cross.
When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garments and divided them into 4 parts. One part for each soldier, also his tunic. But the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. So they said to one another, "Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see whose it shall be." This was to fulfill the scripture which says, "They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." So the soldiers did these things, but standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her to his own home.
His mother looked me in the eyes, grabbed my face with her 2 hands, and said, "That's my boy. Look what they did to him. Why?" I had no answer. I just hoped with his death it didn't have to mean the death of my dignity. Something he had given me. There was only a few of us left, mostly other women. But I kept going in the back of my mind to the things that he had said. This had to happen. Love will win. He had set me free, chained by my dark forces inside my head. Maybe he would be free now. I just know how much I loved him, and I know how much he loved me.
I don't know how to love him, what to do, how to move him. I've been changed, yes, really changed in these past few days. When I've seen myself, I seem like someone else. I don't know how to take this. I don't see how he moves me. He's a man.
soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
I could see he wasn't guilty of anything. Everybody could see that. And when I looked over at him hanging next to me, I could see something else. I could see he was not even from this world. So I simply asked to be remembered. I didn't expect the gift he promised, together in paradise. I didn't want to die. I hurt as bad hanging there as the others. But I believe he was God, and I believe his promise.
Change. You are the God you say you are, and I'm afraid. You come and still my beating heart. You stay the same. When hope is just a distant thought, you take my pain. To the cross. What love is this that you gave your life for me and made a way for me to know you? And I confess you're always enough.
Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action. He came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he himself was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. Then he took it down, wrapped it in linen cloth, and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had yet been laid. It was preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph and saw the tomb and how his body was laid in it. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes. But they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the commandment.
I knew from the beginning this was total injustice. He did nothing wrong. I was saving this dungeon for my own burial. But this was wrong. He deserved the best place for burial. What goes through the mind of evil men? If you sell your soul for money or power or anything, is it worth it? I learned that from him, and so I got his body. It cost me a fortune, but it was well worth it. I put his body in that damp, cold dungeon. We rolled the stone in front so nobody could take it.
The